Hey everyone, it is Dani'i and welcome to this update video. And so in this video, we will be talking about what is now Tropical Storm Bonnie, as well as a disturbance that is approaching the Lesser Antilles. And so before I go into details, Alright, and so taking a look at infrared satellite of the Atlantic Basin, there we have Bonnie in the South Caribbean approaching the mainland territories of Central America. And we have that tropical wave that is actually marked as a disturbance approaching the Lesser Antilles. And then just to the southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands, we have a tropical wave that is propagating towards the west. And so guys, let's go ahead and take a look at our marked systems in detail. So of course, let's talk about this disturbance first. And so it is given a low 10% chance to possibly develop into something. And there is a 90% chance that we won't see any development, and that is due to an unfavorable environment that is ahead of the system here. And so regardless, though, it is going to be making its way over portions of the Windward Islands and is likely to bring along with it maybe some heavy rainfall. So if you're in portions of the Lesser Antilles, you want to be aware of that happening. And so as it is going to be making its way into the Eastern Caribbean, it is not likely to develop because things are going to just be too hostile. So we'll take a look at conditions later down in this video. And so guys, now let us go ahead and talk about our tropical storm Bonnie. And so here we have Bonnie on satellite. We are seeing that we have some areas of very deep convection associated with the storm, and it is of course approaching the coasts of Central America. And so there are various warnings that are in place for portions of Central America. And so tropical storm warning, which is highlighted in blue, is in effect for San Andres, Colombia, Limon, Costa Rica northward to Sandy Bay, Sierpe, Nicaragua, as well as Cabo Blanco, Costa Rica northward to the border of Nicaragua and Honduras. And so tropical storm-like conditions are likely within about 12 hours in these areas that are under the warning. And so very heavy rainfall, gusty winds, as well as that storm surge are likely. But the main concern with this thing here is going to be the flooding as a result of the heavy rainfall that is likely to occur. And I believe portions of Nicaragua are already experiencing very heavy rainfall based on what satellite is showing here. So some of those areas of very deep convection are moving inland already. So as time goes by, conditions will only deteriorate further, and those tropical storm conditions will bear down. And so guys, we are seeing that a hurricane is expected from Bonnie over in the Eastern Pacific by Tuesday. And so conditions are expected to be quite favorable over there, very moist environment as well as favorable wind shear. And those will enable intensification of the system right off the Mexican coast. And so persons that are along the Pacific coast of Mexico should be keeping an eye on this, because this is likely to bring some impacts if it is going to be in very close proximity to land, and it is possible that we could see this cone shifting over the next couple of days. So we definitely have to wait and see what the eventual outcome is going to be. But other areas such as El Salvador, Guatemala, and the southern Pacific coast of Mexico should definitely keep an eye on Bonnie. But as of right now, it is accelerating to the west at 20 miles per hour, so moving relatively quickly, but it might slow down some more. But eventually, once it's going to be over in the Pacific, it might pick up in its acceleration. And so let's go ahead now and take a look at our model intensity guidance. And so most of our models are expecting that Bonnie is going to eventually become a hurricane, as what the National Hurricane Center is expecting. But fortunately, the worst of it is likely to be offshore, and let's hope that things don't get too intense in the Pacific along the Pacific coast of the Latin American countries as you're going to be heading into next week. Alright, and now let's go ahead and move on to current conditions out there. So first up, ocean temperatures are definitely favorable. However, as you go more north in the Pacific, we start to see those greens, which indicates cooler waters, and tropical cyclones need at least 26 degrees Celsius for that to be considered favorable ocean temperatures to enable intensification. And so as Bonnie is going to be making its way into cooler waters, when it starts to move on a more northwestward-like track, it is likely to weaken. So it is going to be in a favorable environment for the most part while it is off the southern Mexican coast, but as it accelerates more on a northward-like track, it is going to be encountering cooler waters eventually. And so let's go ahead and take a look at the Saharan dust map. And so we see that we have quite a bit of dry air that is out there in portions of the Atlantic basin right now. And in the vicinity of Bonny, things are pretty okay. There is not much dry air intrusion in the region at all. So things are pretty favorable. The storm is definitely taking advantage of the favorable conditions, because yesterday it was not looking so good and now it is looking a lot better. So it's definitely becoming a better organized storm, but eventually once it is going to be making its way over into Central America, it's going to weaken because it is going to be crossing over land. And so that is going to reduce its intensity. But again, once it moves over in the Pacific in favorable conditions, it is going to intensify. But as for that wave, though, that is approaching the Lesser Antilles, we're seeing that we have all of that dry air in portions of the Eastern Caribbean. It's going to be meeting up with that. So all that dry air intrusion is going to be interfering with the system trying to develop. So it's really going to be struggling out there, and this isn't the only inhibiting factor. Let's look at the wind shear map. And so we have these different colors that we're seeing, and the red indicates that we have unfavorable wind shear, yellow means neutral, and green means favorable. And so in the vicinity of Bonny, things are pretty favorable right now, but as we head out into the Atlantic, where we have that wave approaching the Lesser Antilles, things are pretty unfavorable and across most of the Caribbean. And so once the system is going to be making its way into the Eastern Caribbean and encountering all of the strong shear, it is likely going to be struggling even more. So it's not likely that we will see a tropical cyclone from the system here, and if we did, we would have the formation chance being much higher from the National Hurricane Center. But let's wait and see what the eventual outcome is going to be, but this could be a rainmaker for portions of the Lesser Antilles. And so guys, aside from Bonny and that disturbance, we don't really see anything else out there. We have another tropical wave that is out there, of course, as I said earlier in this video, but that is not really expected to become anything. And July isn't typically a very active month, but as we head more into August, September, we will definitely see an increase in tropical cyclone activity. But let's wait and see what's going to be happening. However, as these systems are going to pass, it's not likely that we will see anything imminently. But of course, I'm going to be keeping you updated as time goes by. And so again, if you're in any areas that are under any warnings right now, please take all the necessary precautions and stay safe. And I will be giving you the necessary updates. And so that is it for this video. And if you found it to be quite informative, please leave a thumbs up. And you can also share your thoughts with me in the comments or ask a question. I'll try to respond as best and as soon as I can. And of course, remember to always be weather-wise.